Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today at Sunday School at To God Be the Glory Ministry. We are still going over Casket Empty, and here is the study guide for the Old Testament by Carol Kaminsky. Keep in mind, Casket Empty stands for Creation, Abraham, Sinai, Kingdom, Exile, Temple, Expectation, Messiah, Pentecost, Teaching, and Yet to Come. And the purpose of Casket Empty is to tell the one story of redemption from Genesis to Revelation. We're going to start with creation today, and there's three big parts of creation that we're going to cover. That is creation itself, the fall of humanity, and the effects of the fall of humanity. The effects of the fall of humanity will have three different subpoints in there that include Cain and Abel, Noah, and the Tower of Babel. It's in creation that we get the theme and the first part of the story of redemption that we're going to find throughout the rest of the Bible. Now remember, this is a survey and a summary, so it's not going to go too in depth. If you would love to go in depth, I strongly encourage you to come check us out at To God Be the Glory Ministry, 1313 Capsule Mine Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let us continue with creation. With creation, we are in the beginning looking at God, and with God there are these chaotic waters, there's this darkness, there's this emptiness, and this void. And I think this is a good visual for us to understand what is going on. Now, as we compare what we're looking at to what was written during the ancient narratives at that time, some believe that in these chaotic waters, the gods came out of these chaotic waters, and then they started to create. And when they came to creating people were created to be the slaves of the gods. In this account, what we see is quite the opposite. What is going on is that God is outside of these waters, and he is bringing order into the waters, and he is controlling everything. And when he comes down to creating people, people are created in his image, reflecting him to the rest of the world. And they have the important and priestly responsibility to cultivate, to till, and to care for the land. This creation takes place over 7 days, and on the seventh day, God rests. And this gives us a good theme that we're going to see carry throughout. Notice something else, is that we see the creation of the world, we see Eden, and then we see the Garden of Eden. Three different spheres. Keep hold of that, because that's going to come up again. That covers chapters 1 through 2 of Genesis, if you want to read further. Next, we're going to go into Genesis 3, where we have to talk about the unfortunate fall of humanity. So God gives Adam and Eve this command, and this command is to test their loyalty and their obedience, and that he has given them all of the trees in the Garden of Eden, but there's only one tree that they cannot eat. One tree out of the bazillions, if we can make that a word, of trees that they could even eat. Needless to say, a piece of creation comes into the garden, the serpent, and tempts them, and is the reason why they fall. Part of the reason. They need to take responsibility, but the serpent causes this fall. So Adam and Eve, instead of listening to the Creator, they listen to creation, and they realize that maybe God is not telling the truth. Maybe he doesn't really care. Maybe he's hiding something from them. So they take bite of this fruit in order to see. And they're drastically wrong. God comes in, is disappointed, and then he exiles them out of the Garden of Eden. He gives the curse to the serpent, he gives the curse to the woman, and he gives the curse to Adam. The curse to the serpent is his children, his seed, will have tensions with the woman's seed. Keep hold of that. To the woman, she will have increased pain in childbirth, and her desires will now be to serve her husband. And with the man, with Adam, we see that the whole world is cursed. His work is going to be difficult. Sin is entered into the world, and they are once again exiled out of the garden. This is the first theme of exile. We also see the first example of sacrifice in that God covers them with skins of animals so that they are no longer naked. And then as we continue with the effects of the fall, one chapter later, one generation later with Cain and Abel, we see the first murder. Notice how quickly the impact of sin has happened. And this violence continues even down with Noah's time. And God is so disappointed with creation and the violence and the sin that is in the world that he even regrets creating humanity. But there is one person that finds favor in the sight of God, and his family is saved. And they are given, well, Noah is given a command to construct this ark. And in creating this ark, based off of the model that God gives, those who enter into the ark are saved. Not because of how good they are, but simply out of obedience to the command of God. And Noah's family goes into this ark along with animals in the order that he's given with these animals. And those who enter into this ark, those are the ones that are saved. And you would think by now, people would have got the fact that we need to listen and obey God, but that is not the case. The command is given to humanity to go throughout the earth and to populate the earth with his image. They don't listen. Instead, we are still seeing some of the effects from Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and the fall, and that people still believe that God is hiding something from them. So they gather together to build a temple to reach into the heavens. Long story short, if you build this temple, this tower up to the heavens, you can reach God, and then you no longer need God because you can be God. God sees this and he comes down and he confuses their language, hence Babel, and they are forced to spread throughout the earth. And that covers chapters 4 through 11 of Genesis, if you want to read further. So let's get a quick summary and overview of what we just covered. As we look at creation, it is God who is the creator and the originator of humanity, and they are meant to reflect his purpose on the earth. He gives them a command to test their loyalty and their obedience, but they don't trust him or value him, and instead they value other creation over on top of God. This disobedience brings exile and a separation between God and his creation, and the whole world is cursed. And this curse, we see the evidence of this with Cain and Abel, with the time of Noah, and with the Tower of Babel. And we're left asking ourselves, well, what is now going to happen to get things back to the way that they were in chapter 1? That takes us into Abraham, where God, instead of selecting just one family, he is now going to select one person, a new Adam, to create and originate his purpose. Thank you. Come back.